All right, so we're headed over to Gary's house because he called me and said, hey, my truck won't start. It's just turning over, ain't doing nothing. I got him to check a couple things. So we're gonna hook it up to the scanner, see if we're making high pressure oil, see if we got fuel pressure, do some diagnosing here. He said he's been having a long start over the last couple of days, getting progressively longer. Anyways, we'll run through this together here. Got Diesel with us back there. Hey Gary.
It's always something.
What are we doing?
Messing with my raggedy truck.
It ain't raggedy. Cut it a break.
Something's wrong.
Maybe something simple. We're firing the computer up and Gary's gonna put a dip in and calm down. You already got one in?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, we got some codes pulled here. ICP. I did tell Gary to unplug his ICP sensor, see if it made any difference. So that could be from that, or it could be from sitting here extended cranking it and it's sitting there not seeing what it wants to see. Anyways, a lot of this probably doesn't mean a whole lot of anything. So I'm gonna go over here to the live data meter. And there's several things that you gotta have. You gotta make 500 ICP to start. So we're gonna start with pulling up injector control pressure. And I feel like that is a skewed number right now. Ain't no way it's reading 242 sitting there. And Gary, you ain't cranked the truck in a while, have you?
No.
All right, so I'm gonna say we may have a biased ICP sensor, but that doesn't make sense of why it's not cranking. Got our IPR. Then we gotta have Fickum main power, which is good. And then we gotta have Fickum sync, which says you're communicating with the injectors, or it's sending a signal to the injectors, which is 0 right now. It would be 1 when we go to crank. So we gotta hit 500 here to crank. You're not making high pressure oil, Jerry. It's not making enough high pressure oil to crank. You got a high pressure oil leak. All right, so I'm gonna drive Gary's big white girl home. And he's gonna take old white trash here and put her to work. So Gary's gonna put old white trash, make her work a little bit today. So I'm gonna throw some diesel in his truck and I'm not gonna cut it off. We're gonna get it home, and I'm willing to bet as soon as we get home, when I cut it off, it won't crank back up because the oil's hot and thin and it's got a high pressure oil leak. Take care of my truck, Gary. All right, so I'm gonna try to hold the camera still, but this is our IPR right here. Of course, 84% is doing all it can do. So I'm just sitting here cruising at 45 miles an hour, and I'm probably not even gonna go over a quarter or a third throttle, and it's gonna max out at 84%, meaning it's doing all it can do. That wasn't even full half throttle, less than half, and I hit 84. So that's your other thing that's indicative of this high pressure oil leak. The only other thing it could possibly be is if his screen is stopped up on his IPR, but I'm really highly doubting that. I'm thinking standpipe or dummy plugs, because we never got into that. It could be those upper injector O-rings, or it could even be a couple of the nipple cups leaking. Ball valves, not ball valves, but ball cups, nipple cups, whatever you want to call them, leaking. And I've got the ones from, I think it's black something diesel. I don't remember where I bought them from, but I got several on the bench. So we're going to try to air test this high pressure system while it's warm, because it's obviously worse when it's warm. That'll make it a lot easier to find. All right, so we have just pulled into the shop. Let me turn the lights on here. And I haven't turned the truck off yet, but I guarantee you what's going to happen when I cut it off and try to restart it is you're going to see me struggle if I can even get close to building 500 PSI on the ICP. And you're going to see the IPR maxed out at 84% when I go to crank, which is going to keep this I mean, it's trying to build 500 going to 84 and doing all it can do, but it's probably not going to do it because it was getting worse and worse on the way home, and you can tell she ain't got everything she's usually got. So I'm gonna turn her off. Yeah. Next thing we can do, we can look at the ICP voltage to see if we have a biased ICP sensor. Volts. And that's right there within range. Right there around 0.24 is what you want to see for your reference for your ICP. All right, guys, I don't have my handle for my iPhone to video like I usually do, but it's in my truck that Gary has. He's out cutting grass, so bear with me on maybe some terrible video in here. So I've had this tool on the channel before. Gary's truck is hot, like I just showed. We got here and turned it off. Anyways, let me flip this around and show you. So this is your high pressure oil pump test tool that I've used on the channel a couple times from Accurate Diesel. It goes into the IPR. You hook it to shop air. Got this real nice German-made valve here on it. So anyways, we got to come over here. So we got to take a few things off for me to get my hands back there, and this is hot because I want to be able to test it while the oil's hot in the system and make it a little bit easier finding the leak. So we're going to have to take the air intake out, pull our degas bottle off. I may be able to fight with it with the fickum in there. I'm not sure, but either way, we got to pull some stuff off. I'll catch up with you, showed you what I pulled off. I'll show you hooking the tool up. We'll put the shop air on it, and then it doesn't immediately show itself. A lot of times you'll put the shop air on it, and it's got to try to push some oil through the system here, and you'll start hearing it gurgle and air pushing its way out of places, and we'll start pinpointing it. Is it over here under the passenger side valve cover, or under the driver's side valve cover, or what is it? For some reason, I got a gut feeling this probably doesn't have the updated standpipes dummy plugs. We'll see. I think I have one standpipe and one dummy plug on the shelf. Maybe it's just on one side. We can have Gary back going. But anyways, we'll see, and we'll catch up when we do the air test here. All right, so we took the air box out, the air inlet, took our degas bottle loose, we took our fickum off. I took the back stud out of the intake right there. That's that long stud there, and the nut. It makes it a little bit easier to fit your hand in there. You have to take your, you have to take your shield off of your IPR. That shields it from heat. Make sure you put it back on after this. This one was a little bit of a pain to get off. That thing was really cooked on there. So now we're going to take our IPR socket. We're going to get it down there. I have to use a wobble and my long extension, and we're going to back the IPR out. We're going to look at our screen real quick, then we're going to put the air test in there and pressurize this system. All right, so here's how I attack getting the IPR out. You can see the socket down there. Got my wobble on it. I got extensions coming out here to my 1/2-inch drive. It gets it out in the open where you can really put some force on it to break it loose. So if they've been in there a while, they're good and tight. So we'll get this backed out. This is the tightest IPR I've ever had to take out. I actually had to use my cheater bar right here on my ratchet to break it loose. I was really in there. So now we're just gonna finish backing it out. We'll be able to put our tool in there. All right, so I guess today's one of those days. I've never had this happen either. So the IPR broke loose from the inner part. You can see it back there. Zoom in. Yeah, so that's stuck in there. I never had this happen, so I got to figure that out now. All right, so I got it out. I had to put my big pair of vice grips on it, and I don't know how somebody tightened it up that much, but here it is. We got it out, but I boogered the threads up on it, and the screen is blown out on it also. I did notice that. So now we're going to go and throw our air tester in there. We'll have to shut all the fans and everything off in here and listen for a leak. So we'll see what we find here in a second. All right, we're all hooked up back there. Got it threaded in. Got it hooked to our shop air. So now we're going to open it up, give it some time. Listen for a leak. All right, so this is just after just a few minutes. Usually it takes a little longer than that to find one. This is a pretty good one. You can hear that. So we got something underneath this valve cover. Standpipe, dummy plug, or it could be injector seal. Sorry, air compressor kicked on. What was I gonna say? Oh, could be nipple cups. Any of that, we'll find out when we pull this valve cover off. So we'll catch up then. Looks like a standpipe. All right, so we pulled our standpipe out. At least the upper portion, I got the lower yet. And if you look right there, there's the problem. Blew that O-ring out. All right, so we got our high pressure oil rail all off so that we could remove our lower part of our standpipe. If you look real close, that says China right there, made by that same girl, China. She don't make very good parts though. Dorman don't buy this crap. So this one didn't fail yet, but you can see it was starting to erode. This is garbage. This is what you do with this. And you leave it right there. So after you throw that crap on the ground, this is what you put back in there. So now we're gonna put our high pressure oil rail back on, and then you can feed this one in. It's a little bit hard, but you can feed it in over the top of the accumulator box. Not accumulator, sorry, evaporator box, down through the rail. And you want to lube all these up with oil real good before you put them in there, because you sure don't want to tear them and be hard on them when you put them in. All right, we put our new standpipe, our new dummy plugs in, torqued them to 60 foot-pounds. When putting that standpipe in on this side with this, so you put the oil rail in here, but before you push it down like I'm talking about, you leave it loose so that you can get that standpipe started down in through past this high pressure oil rail here. And then you push this down, then you can torque it, and then you put your standpipe and dummy plug in. So that's what we did. So now we're getting ready to hook the air back up, pressure test it again, and make sure all this is good, because y'all saw how bad it was blowing out there earlier by that standpipe. So let's see what happens. Look who's here. Look how happy he is, because we're getting ready to pressure test this. All right, so I'm assuming y'all can hear that. That's either, it's really hard to tell. It's either the nipple cup or it's the top of the injector leaking. Where'd my mirror go? There it is. So the way I pinpointed it, see if y'all can see this. You can see the top of that injector right there. So you can see where this is really wet with oil. So what I did, if you pour oil towards the middle of the motor on this rail and let it run down, it'll go right there to the top of that injector. And you can just hear it start gurgling and kind of almost popping with the oil, pushing the oil out of there. All right, Gary's gonna pour that oil, and you may not be able to see it, but you should be able to hear it. Oh, you can see it now. Should have zoomed in already, but y'all probably saw it bubbling right there. So in the past, I've had this exact same leak. It was a nipple cup, which I know so many people say don't reseal nipple cups. You shouldn't have to do that. They don't leak. Well, they actually get worn on the nipple, especially if you've had a high pressure oil leak. You got 3,000 pounds of pressure pushing oil around this stuff. Now, also what can happen is the nipple cup can leak and it can erode that top O-ring in the injector. So this may actually be a combination of both. My light getting ready to go dead. So I think we're going to pull the high pressure oil rail back off the next day we're out here. We're going to put a new nipple cup and O-ring in the rail. I think we're going to pull that injector. We're going to reseal it. We're going to put it back in. Then we'll pressure test it again, and we should be good to go over here. We got the high pressure oil rail back off, and we're going to replace that upper injector seal right there. I'm gonna try and do it right here in the truck instead of pulling the injector out. So Gary's got a mess to clean up because he set the oil rail down where all the oil runs out. Thanks, Gary.
You're welcome.
So here's the seal. Let me zoom in here. Here's the seal we're replacing in the top of the injector. And this is actually out of this BD Power ISK 102 part number injector seal kit. I got several of these from XDP Diesel, and here is the nipple cup part number here. Comes with your O-ring and the new nipple cup ball valve, whatever you want to call it. Anyways, we're going to show putting that in too, which takes a special tool. There's one of them, but that's not the one I like to use. Where's the one I use? Where'd it? Yeah, here it is. So this centers your ball nipple cup, whatever. The nipple goes in here, and then this tool goes down. We'll show you when we do it. Anyways, this is the tool you use. All right, so there is the look at the top of the injector. You can barely see the black, that rubber O-ring seal at the top. It's gonna be next to impossible for me to video this, but if you go to HHC Diesel on YouTube, they have a really good video of doing this in or out of the truck. Also a video of resealing the whole injector O-rings and everything. So if you want to see a detailed thing on that, check theirs out because they explain it really well. And it'd just be easier for you to watch their video than me try to have the camera right here in my hands in the way. All right, here's the tool we were talking about. This is the front nipple cup that we believe might be leaking along with that top injector seal. So you just put this in here. You're going to use an impact to break it loose. This is a 7/8 socket. Get my pick, we'll get that O-ring out. All right, we lubed our O-ring up. Goes right down. Down in there. Make sure we got it seated. Our new nipple. What's cool about this tool is it centers this nipple up when you put it back in, so it's centered upright.
Where are you torquing that down to?
75, but you're going to have to help me hold it because we're trying to avoid having to go put it in vise. Maybe I'll do it like this.
You want me to hold it?
All right, we got all our new ball nipples, nipple cups, whatever you'll call them. They're all put in. We ended up doing all of them on this side and torqued them all down. So we make sure everything's got some oil on them. Make sure that that new injector top seal is oiled up. And we're going to put this in here. And the key to putting this in is you don't rock it into place. You don't set the bottom down and then rock it over. Because what this is going to do is take this sharp edge and try to rub it down that top injector seal. The idea is you have it sitting flat on the injector and you just give it a push down. But we're just going to set it there for now. And we're going to make sure that we can get our standpipe line back up. Because we just left the lower part in there. Because if you remember, we've already put this together once. So it's fine down there in the bottom. So you don't rock it into place.
Sounded like it went in there.
I'm just making sure it's seated down because we don't want to wiggle it around. All right, we're all together. We're all torqued down. Oil pressure, rail, torque to 10 foot-pounds. I'll post the torque sequence right here. All right, we torqued our dummy plug standpipe 60 foot-pounds. That's all sealed up. So let's see what happens now when Gary opens this valve. Let her rip, Tater Chip. Come on, Gary.
That it?
Yeah, that's it. Do what?
Racing.
IPR.
IPR.
Actually just motorcraft, but yeah, sure. That's the way to go, get motorcraft. All right, so we pressure tested it. Dummy plugs, standpipes are all good. A little bit of air coming out of the top injector seal on the one we resealed and the one behind it. Not near as much as it was before. Now, it is a little normal to have a little bit of an air leak there doing an air test because it's not all lubricated with oil. It's not full of oil. So a little bit is acceptable. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put everything together other than this passenger side valve cover. We're gonna crank on the truck and make sure we're building high pressure oil just fine before we put this all back together. And if we're shooting up above 500 immediately when we start cranking, then we know that we're good and we can finish putting this together. Anyway, so we're gonna do that. Throw this IPR, turbo, alternator, and all that back on so we can turn the motor over. All right, so while we're doing this and we found out that we had the Dorman standpipes and dummy plugs on this side, we've opted to go on and do the standpipes and dummy plugs on the driver's side also. This side's so much easier than the passenger side, so we're gonna go and knock these out, and we'll catch up with y'all then. We're gonna have to go rawhide this thing a little bit to push all the air out of the system and make sure that the hard start is gone. So we'll catch up with y'all then.
Hey Drew, what are you doing?
Putting these stupid valve covers on. They're a lot of fun, especially this side. But pretty much everything about this side is just a fun time.
Ford well designed this piece of machinery. Drew's torquing down the valve cover, and there's not really a sequence on over here. And Drew wants to go home.
Can I go home?
Yep, just have to walk out of the garage next door, and he's home.
You tired?
Yeah, not as tired as Drew was.
I'm tired. All right, we're all together. I'm ready to crank it up. I'm ready to quit. I get so tired of this right here. Anybody else tired of this? I think that should have been run a little bit better instead of sitting there being able to cook all the time. All right, let's fire it up. All right, so we've been cranking, doing a little bit of priming, about 10-second intervals, just because it's full of air. So see if it hits this time. Hope y'all enjoyed the video. Gary, you glad to have your truck back?
Yes.
It was a little bit of work, but long story short, don't put Dorman, Chinese, garbage, junk parts on these trucks. It's what you get. Yes, sometimes you'll mess up a standpipe or a dummy plug, even if it's a good OEM one, but don't put the garbage in here. It's way more likely to happen. So we got Ford OEM updated, standpipes, dummy plugs, resealed the top seal of an injector, and put 3 nipple cups in. And she's running good. Gary's gonna drive her home. We're tired, we're hungry. It's Automatic Garage signing out. Like, subscribe, comment. We'll holler at y'all later.